I'm Dr. Margaret Li, licensed clinical psychologist in California. In this video, I'm inviting my friend and colleague, Dora Chen, licensed psychotherapist in California, to answer questions that are most asked by my clients that are struggling with trauma. Without further ado, let's see how Dora answers all these questions about trauma. Hi, Dora. Welcome to Psych Made Easy.
Hi, Maggie. Thank you for inviting me to come here. So, hi, everyone. My name is Dora, and I have a practice in the San Francisco Bay Area. So, right now, like everybody else, I'm doing therapy only online because of the COVID situation, of course. Like Maggie said, I specialize in trauma and anxiety and stress management and also identity counseling as well. I am bicultural and bilingual in Chinese. So in my practice, I work with a lot of immigrants as well. So yeah, it's very exciting to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. So, Dora, can you tell us a little bit about what is trauma? Like, what do we mean when we have trauma? Do I have to go through a car accident or a natural disaster to be count as trauma?
Yeah, that's actually a question a lot of people ask me when I said I'm a trauma therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the trauma we are talking here is a psychological trauma. So, that means that maybe sometimes in our past we experienced something really overwhelming and stressful for us at that time. So, the key word is at that time we feel really overwhelmed and stressed out. So maybe that event at that time, it kind of passed our coping ability. So we don't know how to cope with that, and we don't have enough resources to help us to cope with that event. So that event can cause some psychological changes in our body and even biological and DNA changes as
Mm-hmm,
well.
mm-hmm. It changed your brain too, right?
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Yeah. So in our later life, we may still, if it doesn't get processed enough, we may still feeling the impact from those
Mm-hmm.
past trauma events. Yes. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be like a big like nature disaster or like a car accident. It could just be like immigration, like
Mm-hmm.
changing your job, right? Like being taken away from your school and putting into a new school without
Yeah.
asking you by parents. Yeah,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
that's for a kid at that time. It's really hard for a kid system to understand what's going on to try to cope with the stress that is causing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so something that other people think that's positive can probably be a trauma to whoever that's experiencing it too.
Yes, exactly. So
Mm.
trauma is highly individualized. So
Mm-hmm.
other people cannot tell you what is trauma, what is not. You can only tell
Mm.
yourself. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And but a lot of my client would ask me, what happened already happened? Like, what can I do about it?
Yeah, actually, they're right. Because what happened has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fact, right? We are not trying to changing the fact about what has already happened. But actually, for trauma therapy, we're trying to changing our relationship with the impact that
Mm-hmm.
trauma has caused us. So, like I can give you guys a little
Yeah.
bit like a background about like how our brain store memories. So, like for just ordinary memories, like going to school, going to work, our brain store that memories as a explicit memory, right? It's like the hippocampus of our brain is kind of putting those memories nicely and organizedly in our memory file cabinet. So
Mm-hmm.
when we want to retrieve that memory, we can just pull out the drawer and we can find that file over there, right? So for trauma, because it's so overwhelming, it has so many intense emotions associated with that, our hippocampus at that time is kind of lost its function. It doesn't know how to deal with all this. So it's not store the memory into the memory file cabinet. It's just like maybe put it on the floor and it's all over the place. It's very disorganized and doesn't make sense. So when we try to retrieve that memory, we open a drawer, nothing is there. Yeah. But also all these fragments of what happened is kind of stored in our body, in our heart, and even in our spirituality. So that's why we heard people say, oh, I got triggered. That means when we are experiencing something, we are kind of reacting to this event in the very surprising way. Yeah, like when I talk to my boss about how I'm doing in my work, I shouldn't be feeling so overwhelmed and so nervous, right? But for some people who has trauma experience in the past, they may feel like, oh, maybe that's the end of work. I must be fired afterwards this. Right? This is not a normal, we call normal reaction to a boss, a meeting with boss. So that's what we call is being triggered. So that must be the fragment of that implicit memory is working at that time. Yeah. So basically the trauma therapy is to trying to help us to change our relationship with these implicit memory. Maybe we can pick up the folders on the file folders on the floor and put them nicely and organizedly into the file cabinet of our memory system. Yeah.
But what's the point of talking about trauma? I mean, can I just throw that file cabinet away altogether? Like, I just want to forget about them, then I wouldn't be triggered, no?
Yeah, I mean, like if we have like a magical pill, right? Everybody wants that to take that, and then we can forget about everything that we don't want to remember. That would be very perfect, right? But unfortunately, we don't have that. So that's why it's really hard for us just to say we can just suppress that memory because it will jump out from time to time. In our life, there may be like a smell, like a color, or even like a people's like expression on their face can trigger that memory again. And then we go into that kind of downward spiral again.
Yeah, and those are kind of subconscious or unconscious sometimes, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But like some of my clients will ask me like, well, talking about it will only make it worse. Like, they actually notice that their physiology change in session. So they're telling me that, oh, I don't want to go crazy. Like, what if I open that Pandora box and I can't shut it down? Like, that's so unsafe. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I think that's a very good protecting mechanism your clients are having. Actually, I see that a lot in my clients as well. So for our own inner world, we know what's enough for us, what's too much for us, right? So for sometimes when a client come in, he or she will feel hesitated to talk about this. And that's okay. I totally respect that. I think that's a perfect way that they are trying to protect themselves and trying to keep them safe. So for trauma therapy, it can be very different than just like ordinary talk therapy. So for trauma treatment, we can incorporate a lot of like somatic approaches, like very famous EMDR therapy and somatic experiencing, and also Hakomi. I don't know if Maggie, you know about that. Hakomi, yeah, it's also a body approach. So first of all, in the trauma treatment, we have to establish the safety first. Yeah, to help the client to kind of ease their nervous system, make them feel that, okay, now it's safe. And I don't have to talk if I don't want to. I can just relax and enjoy this moment of safety. And that's it. And gradually, my system kind of built up this security and trust in this space, in the therapy space. And gradually, maybe my like the frontal cortex kind of come back, and then I can organize what I want to say and verbalize them. Yeah. So that's the progress. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes I tell my clients like your amygdala, right? The bad part of your brain, the very primal part of your brain is taking over. right? It's like alarm,
Yes,
alarm, alarm, protect
exactly.
wherever that's like happening, right?
Yes, exactly. And also that's a good thing actually. So when client has this, sometimes client will feel like really guilty. Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't cry like that.
Mhm.
I should just talk about it. No, that's fine. That's totally fine. That's just like a very normal reaction of your body. In fact, that's the reason why you survive, right? That's the reason why you can sit here and we can have this treatment going. Yeah.
Actually, a lot of my clients experience trauma in their family, and
Mhm.
they're concerned like, what if they talk about their trauma and then they start hating their parents? Like,
Mm.
their relationships are fine. Like, they don't want to
Right.
rock the boat. Like, what?
Right.
Like, why do we talk about trauma?
Right. Yeah. So, like I said before, because trauma is such a broad concept, and everybody experience that very differently. So,
Mm.
like in trauma field, we have big T's, right? Like this attachment trauma and natural disaster, and also we have like small T's. Even though I don't like that call, because I feel like it's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, like small T's, like transition, like retirement, going to a new job, things like that. But for like those big T's, like the attachment trauma, the relationship with your parents, the relationship with your childhood experiences, it could be like what we call is complex trauma,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just a single one accident. It could be many small things accumulating together and become this huge hole inside of your heart. You
Mm-hmm.
feel lost. You feel, I don't know what to do with that. I try to ignore that hole in my heart, but sometimes I feel like I cannot just surpass it because it's come from time to time.
Yeah. So I see a lot of my clients, they would tell me that, hey, like growing up, like my parents gave me food, shelter, sent me to the best school. Why am I not happy?
Yes, exactly. I experienced that statement a lot of times as well. I feel like, especially with like in Chinese family culture, it's
Mm-hmm.
especially hard because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we feel like for the Chinese culture, clients will feel like it's bad to talk about their family in front of other people, in front of an outsider. So yeah, the concern is real. Like if I talk
Mm-hmm.
about that, they may change my relationship with my parents, which I totally agree. It may change, but maybe it changed to a better way. Because before you're holding all this hole in your heart and
Mm-hmm.
trying to have a relationship with your parents. Sometimes it's not a real relationship because you're kind of hiding a part of yourself from your parents that because you have to protect yourself basically. So if you got a chance to process all these feelings, maybe you can have a more authentic way to interact with your parents. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that even nicer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also hear people say, like, well, people have it worse. Who am I to talk about my trauma or complain about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like I said before, trauma is a very individualized thing. So, you cannot compare your trauma with other people's trauma.
Mm,
So, if you feel like this is something that really overwhelmed you in the past and is still impacting you at the
mm-hmm.
present, could be a trauma for you. And it's your time. If you're in the therapy, it's your time. This 50 minutes or 1 hour is totally your time. So you have every right to utilize this time to
Mm,
help yourself, to know more about yourself, to explore more about your inner world.
mm,
Yeah, to understand, really understand what has happened and what has changed me.
mm. Does that take long? I mean, that sounds like you're changing me.
Yeah, I get like a lot of clients has this concern, like, do I need to be in therapy for decades?
Mm.
before I can be cured, right? So I always tell my clients that there's actually no cure in trauma therapy because we're not trying to cure you, right? We're trying to heal together. So healing, there's never end unless until you die, right? But before in your life, there's no end. And healing is a long, long and wonderful process. Healing including I let it go the past pain. I process what's going on to me, what's going on in the past with me. And also I explore who I really am and where I want to go. So it's like growing. The healing and growing is all together. So I would say like the healing process is a lifelong process. And therapy can be just like a trailhead. Like if you go on hiking, right? Therapy can be a trailhead telling you that, hey, here is a way to go. You can see all these like beautiful things here. And it's you. You can decide whether you go on this trail, whether you want how far you want to go, right? If you want to stay and just watch the beautiful scene and doesn't want to go any further, that's totally up to you.
That's really beautifully said, actually. Yeah. A lot of the time, clients actually come to me because they're preparing to become parents, right? Like they kind of tuck away this pain all their 20, 30 years of life. And then they either become new parents or they are about to become parents, and they're telling me that, well, I don't know if I'm ready, like, because of what happened. Like, what if I'm gonna turn out like my mom? Like, what if I'm gonna turn out like my dad?
Yeah. Actually, in trauma field, there's a term, it's called transgenerational trauma. That means sometimes we passed down the trauma that we cannot process. So like the childhood trauma, the attachment trauma we mentioned before, why do parents hurt their children, right? I guess the reason why is because at that time the parents doesn't know this is hurt, and the parents doesn't know how to kind of cope with the pain in their heart. So they cannot help it but to pass this trauma down. So if you're a new parent and you had some trauma in the past and you're already working on it, that's already a very great step to go, right? You're not trying to just ignore the big hole inside of you. You're trying to look at it and see, what can I do now? You're changing from why this happened to me, to what can I do now? Right, that's actually very empowering, this like shifting of thinking. And maybe when your kid gets older, you can tell them even like about this shifting, because this is a really good model for your kids to learn that, oh, okay, so my parents, they go through this, and it's very hopeful and very empowering. Like people can change as long as they want. They have the motivation and the effort to do that.
Yeah. Sometimes I tell my clients, like, just being able to recognize the cycle that's going on, just being able to recognize the pattern and that something is wrong with the pattern, that itself is already so powerful.
Yes. So the trauma can be like a curse in the family, but healing trauma can be a blessing in the family. Right? It's like a family heritage. You're showing your kids, see, mom or dad are doing this because we believe in hope. We believe in the power of love.
So well said. I guess last question that a lot of my clients ask is, am I too broken because of what happened to me? Right? For example, some of my clients were rape survivors, and they feel like they're not pure anymore, that they were, dirty, they're broken, that people can just see through them that they don't fit in.
Yeah, I heard that a lot from my clients who had like complex trauma in the past as well. So every time I heard this, it kind of really heartbreaking for me to hear that. Yeah, because I can feel that hopeless and helplessness in them. Yeah, but also I would like to point out to them to see how far they have already been going, right? Looking back, because every time if we always look at the goal over there, we will feel like why we are so far away from that ultimate goal. But actually, just remember that that's the ultimate goal, whatever that is. Right? We have to remind us how far we have come along. Yeah. And also, I believe in this world, nobody is broken. Because remember, again, our definition, right? Trauma is very highly individualized. So, in that broad sense, like everybody has some trauma in this world. So, nobody is broken. This is just maybe being a person, being a human being is with being trauma. Is the whole life is our lesson to learn how to heal, how to deal with different traumas in our lives. So nobody is broken. Yeah. And also, that's something that I learned from a Japanese culture. So I know that for Japanese, I don't know if you know that the Japanese cup repairing process. So
tell me about it.
for sure, like if you break a cup, like a Japanese cup, there's a crack on that. So for Japanese, they use a very special skills. They use a gold to fill in the cracks. So you will see a Japanese cup with like ceramic and a crack fill out of gold on that. So that cup become very unique because every cracks on every cup is different. So that kind of the part of the golden crack is become the most unique part of yourself and the most brilliant part of yourself. Yeah. So I like that saying said that like I know I'm not perfect and every part of me are beautiful. Yeah. And I think that's the notion that we hold to ourselves.
That's very beautifully said.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna end the interview here with this hope, right? This hope that everyone has some trauma in their life, and it's those trauma that actually make us kind of flourish, right? Yes. Like that, like the golden crack in the ceramic cup, right? It actually adds a lot more flavor, right?
Yeah, and make you become very unique, become you, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dora, for answering all these questions.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for all these great questions. I'm very happy to share with you about my thoughts and feelings and knowledge on this trauma topic. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on our show. I definitely invite you back for other topics too.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
So that's it from me and Dora. Thank you so much for watching. Comment below to let us know if you have any questions about the topic today. Be sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week, same place, same time. Thank you.